Hello everybody. One of the most important underlying themes of the interim budget that was presented by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today was perhaps that a blueprint is being put in place to prepare India for the future, to enable it to meet the targets that the Prime Minister has set for the country to become among the developed economies of the world in the next few years. To make sense of the important announcements that have been made today, we have with us IT, Telecom and Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. Mr. Vaishnav has been at the forefront of the Prime Minister's vision to make Indian Railways the lifeline of the country, not just affordable and accessible, but also enjoyable. And he's also somebody who has made very important changes in the regulatory mechanism of the telecom and IT sectors of India. Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir. So, what are your opening thoughts on the budget? Because, we see that capital expenditure has again gone up, which means that this is a re-emphasis of the focus that the government has on infrastructure. What does this mean for the country and its people?
If you look at the last 10 years journey, it has been a journey of inclusive growth. It has been a journey in which the people who were left out of development and economic growth, they have been brought into the ambit of growth and better life, better amenities. For example, 11 crore houses getting tap water. For example, 4 crore houses Pakka houses being built for people living in the villages and in urban poor areas. All these things have made a very big difference in the overall economic growth. Combine that with some very robust and some very well thought through policies. Today India is growing at a good pace of 7 to 8%, and almost all the economists in the world, almost they have consensus that India will continue to have a growth of 7 to 8% over the next few years. This is all possible because of the clearly thought through policy framework that Prime Minister Modi ji has laid for the country. Today's budget re-emphasizes both the points, inclusive growth as well as sustained economic growth, so that the country can be on a path of a developed nation at Viksit Bharat at 2047.
Yes, sir. Mr. Vaishnav, when you look at railways, I know that you've been working on multiple fronts. There are new tracks being laid out every day, 14 kilometers every day. 94% of tracks have been electrified. There's also the concept of safety that you're working on. Apart from all this, how are you looking at addressing this growing demand for services, and how are you managing to balance it out?
The overall picture is like this. Before, let's say 10 years back, if you look at it, the entire focus of railway, the governments of those times, UPA government, was just to announce a new train. They were never bothered about safety. They didn't have any consideration for whether that corridor has any capacity or not. In last 10 years, the focus has totally shifted to safety as the primary focus, increasing capacity as the most important activity, getting new technology as the third big pillar of this entire thing. If you look at today's budget and the previous budgets, there is a continuity in it. From 14,000 crore rupees of budgetary support, today the budgetary support is 2,52,000 crore. In the last 10 years, we have added 26,000 kilometers of new tracks. Last year alone, it was 5,200 kilometers of new tracks. This year is 5,500 kilometers of new tracks. That practically means we are adding a country like Switzerland every year in the railway network of our country. And today, 3 new corridors have been announced in the budget. These corridors are akin to what happened in the highway sector during Vajpayee ji's period. Vajpayee ji started the Golden Quadrilateral project. Similarly, Modi ji has started the corridor project, which is Amrit Chaturbhuj, where the entire, if you look at the railway network, it's shaped like a diamond with 4 sides and the diagonals, and of course the northeast. So this entire network will be made 4-laned. Many places there will be 6-laning. Many places there will be bypasses being made. There will be many places where there will be rail flyovers, so that surface crossing doesn't have to happen. In a sense, the entire network will be a totally transformed network. We will be adding about 40,000 kilometers of new railway tracks in the next 6 to 8 years.
Yes, sir.
which means adding the network of Germany, adding the entire network of Germany to our network. So increasing capacity, having focus on safety, these two are very critical parts of the entire strategy. Once we have more capacity, we can run more trains with a lot of safety features in them. And we are doing about 700 crore people are traveling today. We must take this number to 1000 crore.
Okay.
We are doing about 1500 million tons, which is second highest in the world today. We must take this number to 3000 million tons. That is the overall direction.
So, Mr. Vaishnav, we have a lot of people talking about how the government has been spending a lot on infra, but at the same time, we know the story of a fiscal deficit. Of course, we've been meeting our targets. People have also talked about tax buoyancy, something that the finance minister also talked about today. How is the government looking at increasing private investment in this field, sir?
Private capex has already picked up. If you look at sector after sector, where factory utilization has now gone beyond 75% in most sectors, many sectors 90% plus, and one can see announcement of new projects in the private sector. Practically every week we see new announcements and new factories starting, new manufacturing projects. So that the thinking was that we kickstart the economy by having public investment. And public investment, one, it will improve the productivity of the country. You have better logistics, you have better transmission network, you have better connectivity, telecom connectivity using public investment. So that improves the productivity of the country. Right. That also creates demand. And that demand basically generates new private investment. So that cycle is now in place. That cycle is in place. We can see today almost 75% of the total investment. If 100 is the investment, out of that 75% is private investment.
So that's good.
All three sectors, housing, if you look at it, factories, you look at it, you look at projects, everywhere the private investment started kicking in.
Right. Mr. Vaishnav, coming to something that all of us love talking about, Micron and semiconductors. Yesterday, the president also talked about it. I was at Vibrant Gujarat some days ago and the Micron CEO also spoke about it. And I remember you telling media how difficult this industry is, from having this need to have, a place which has no fluctuations in electricity to very pure water. How prepared are we to become the, semiconductor processing hub of the world? I know that there's a facility coming up in Sanand, but what are the targets? What kind of jobs are we looking at creating? And what are the allied sectors that you hope will be in place?
See, we have very strong design capability. Close to 3 lakh design engineers are working, which is practically one third or maybe 30% of the global design capability is existing in our country. Natural corollary of that is to get into manufacturing. This is in terms of manufacturing, since for us, this is a totally new industry. We didn't have a large manufacturing unit. So Prime Minister set a very clear focus to strengthen, to kind of build upon the design capabilities. Let's now attract manufacturing capability. We must also see what is the downstream of semiconductor. Downstream of semiconductor is electronics manufacturing, automobile manufacturing, train sets, power electronics, all the light, fan, fridge, TV, everywhere, bike, car, everything. Practically everything has semiconductors in it. Everything. We should not just limit to computers or mobile phones. So that's the thinking. So with that thinking, getting the first unit was very important, because with the first unit comes the ecosystem. So now the substrate guys have come, the gas guys have come, chemical people have come. And also the world has got a very good confidence and trust that India can execute a project of this complexity.
Right.
June 23 is when Prime Minister announced Micron facility in US when he was in state visit. September, within 90 days, the construction actually started. Construction is going on at very good speed, and this one first success has given huge confidence to the world.
And by when can we expect some?
First chip should roll out in December 2024.
Yes, sir. And jobs?
Obviously, this will have multiplier impact, because now electronics manufacturing is at a very important inflection point. We grew like this, and now that the confidence and the trust, I call it trust shoring.
Okay.
So instead of near shoring, friend shoring, the world is looking at trusted geographies. India is one of those countries where Prime Minister's policies have created huge trust. So a lot of people want to set up mega manufacturing clusters in India.
Right.
People met me in Davos and very keen to build upon the success so far. So the growth which was like this will be like this now.
Okay. Okay.
So that means more and more semiconductors. So semiconductor plus electronics combined, and of course in many more sectors, automobile, everywhere it will have a positive impact.
Right, sir.